Everybody has a magic bullet for the problem of black criminality so wildly out of proportion. Everybody's got a secret solution that they've come up with that nobody else has come up with in 60, maybe more, years of trying in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of cities and thousands and thousands and thousands of different programs that all have worked pretty much in the exact same way, i.e., done nothing but make a bad problem worse. I mean, and now, and the latest magic bullet is coming out of places like Chicago, St. Louis, Philadelphia, Corpus Christi, where they have district attorneys, Oakland, where they have district attorneys elected with the support of George Soros and Black Lives Matter. I know that sounds crazy, right? I know, it sounds crazy, but it's true. The district attorneys are elected by George Soros and Black Lives Matter, and the one in Philadelphia, he just took office a couple days ago. He just fired 21 district attorneys, staffers, the guys who try the criminal cases. So he's going to bring in at least 21 new guys that are all down with the cause and who know we cannot arrest our way out of this mess, who know that arresting a black person is to criminalize the black person. To arrest the black person is to cause a black person to commit crime. And after all, there's already too many black people in prison, so why do we want to arrest any more? Wow. You know what's going to happen in Philly, of course. Okay, I'm breaking my own rule. I'm predicting the future. You know what's going to happen in Philly a year from now? They're just going to, if the district attorney tells you they're not going to prosecute these cases, or they're going to consistently downgrade the charges, the cops are not going to fight the district attorney day in, day out. The police officers union might fight them next election, maybe. But day in and day out, if somebody gets the hell beat out of them, and that goes from assault to felony to offensive touching, a misdemeanor, that's what the cops are going to have to charge them with. So if they don't do it, the district attorney will do it. A year from now, the crime in Philadelphia is going to be remarkably worse. The violent crime, the crimes against property, the crimes against Asian business owners who may not even be allowed to have plexiglass in front of inside their business because that makes it inconvenient. When some of the fellows and their lovely ladies like to come in and rob, assault, and throw things at them. And so a year from now, they're going to stick their hands in the air Rocky style and declare that the crime rate has gone down dramatically. Look at the numbers, Colin. Colin, why don't you understand the numbers? And so that's the latest magic bullet, is charging less, arresting less, getting lesser sentences, putting your hands in the air and declaring victory in a war that you are losing. Kind of reminds me of that guy. Anybody remember Baghdad Bob? Boy, he's passed from our consciousness way too quickly. He was the guy. What war was that? Was that Desert Storm? When we were advancing on Baghdad, and Baghdad Bob would confidently get in front of the microphones and the TV cameras of the world, tell everybody they were winning, the Americans were lying, nothing was going on. In the meantime, literally outside, you could hear the American tanks, rolling down, or you could see a live feed of the Americans blowing up an airport or something. I mean, that's what we're getting from these district attorneys and mayors all over the country now. The numbers are down, Colin, they're down. Okay. Whatever. That's your magic bullet. Arresting fewer people, getting a DA in there who won't charge them. Everybody takes credit for winning a war that they're really losing. Well, sometimes like in places like Baltimore, there are still people who believe in the old school way of enabling black criminality and black violence. They believe in the midnight basketball, the free breakfast, the free lunch, the free dinner, the free phone, the free housing, the free TVs. The free rides to school, the free rides from school, all that stuff. They believe in mentoring. Even though on every step of the way, every place this has been tried, it's turned into a dismal failure, but they keep trying it. As kids get in one end of the system, they meet a social worker, they meet a judge, they meet a prosecutor. They made a court-appointed psychologist. He looks him in the eye, and the kid says, "Oh, man, I'm so sorry I clonked that old lady on the head. What was I thinking? I was hanging around with the wrong people, man. I just want to get my life together." That works. That works. That gets you back out on the street. That's why when cops arrest people in a Baltimore or a Camden or a Philadelphia or a New York or a Chicago or a Corpus Christi or a St. Louis or a Kansas City or a Milwaukee, that's why when they arrest people, they have records longer than their arms. And that's why the people who get shot, they have records equally long, equally vicious. We've let whatever this thing is called a criminal justice system, I feel like I'm reliving some kind of 70s movie now where, where the people commit these incredible crimes and they're back out on the streets before the cops are. I mean, that was the cliche of these 70s movies, but we all thought, people wised up to that and caught on to this little con game, and we thought we kind of settled it. All of a sudden, something happened 5 years ago, 6, 7, 8, 9 years ago. What happened 9 years ago? Something happened 9 years ago where everybody decided, hey, you know what? Man, we're arresting way too many black people for no reason whatsoever. There's just too many in jail because we know that black people and white people commit the same amount of crime. It's just that we catch black people more often because we put cops down there. We don't put cops over in the white neighborhood. Stop me if you've heard this before. Oh, by the way, if you think I'm making this up, check out Atlantic Magazine. A story on gentrification. That's word for word what they have all these big shot experts saying, what I just said. Yeah, I did a video on that. I got kicked off YouTube for posting that video and calling BS on it. They said it was hate speech. Anyway, so watch this video of the story down in Baltimore. And we're going to hear about this plucky city councilwoman who fought back. We did a video when this happened because we did a video on how this woman took her husband's job on the city council after he died. He was down with the cause. She was down with the cause. Every step of the way, every inch of the agenda, the liberal Democrat agenda, the big city agenda, that includes, I shouldn't say it includes, that priority is let's excuse black dysfunction on every possible level. Let's excuse it all and blame it on whatever, as long as we don't blame black people for whatever the hell they're doing. That's what this woman is about. Let's see if this little incident caused her to change her mind.
Councilwoman attacked. Baltimore City Councilwoman Ricky Spector is home recovering tonight after being carjacked and assaulted. Police have one suspect in custody, but they are still looking for another. WJZ is live in Federal Hill. George Solis with the investigation into a crime that happened in broad daylight. George?
Good evening, Denise. It was fight or flight for the councilwoman, and as many tell WJZ, not surprisingly, Ricky Spector chose to fight. The unusual scene in South Baltimore. Police and security guards outside the Harborview parking garage. The site where Friday morning Baltimore City Police say City Councilwoman Rochelle Ricky Spector was the victim of a violent, strong-armed carjacking.
They actually put their hands on Councilwoman Spector and forcibly removed her from her car and then beat her after they got out of her car, punching her several times.
Police saying Spector not going down without a fight.
She absolutely resisted this robbery.
Colleague Councilwoman Mary Pat Clark telling WJZ she friend.
She is a very feisty person, and you don't want to mess with her. So, very in character for Ricky Spector. She fought back.
And she wasn't the only one holding her own. Police say the two 15-year-old suspects then tried to get away but couldn't get past the parking garage's security gate. That's when two nearby maintenance workers who heard the commotion sprung into action and began wrestling the teens in the car, successfully detaining one until police arrived.
They're to be commended for their quick action and not just being bystanders.
Police are still on the hunt for the second 15-year-old suspect. The councilwoman was rushed to a nearby hospital where she was reported to be in good spirits. She was later released. Spector issued this statement to WJZ, thanking the police, the first responders, and her two rescuers. Now, Mayor Stephanie Rawlings-Blake also issuing a statement of her own, saying she is grateful that her colleague is okay, and she condemned the violent attack.
Okay, this story comes out of the Los Angeles Times. I believe the Baltimore Sun and the LA Times and Chicago Sun Times, I think they're all owned by the same people, and I actually think they bought the New York Daily News. too. There's a big company. They own a lot of papers, big city, newspapers. So check out the headline. The story, this has just happened. This story just happened like a couple days in the last 24 hours. 2 teens attacked a Baltimore City Councilwoman during a carjacking. What happened next surprised everyone. No. Okay, I'm going to give away the story. What happened next didn't surprise anybody who watches this channel, who sees public officials and reporters in such denial, deceit, and delusion about this enormous level of black criminality. It doesn't surprise anyone who's seen how reporters and public officials and city councilwomen like this fool ignore, deny, condone, excuse, encourage, and even lie about what's going on in their city with black people and black criminality. So let's pick it up. Okay, let's pick it up. This is who wrote this story? Reporting from Baltimore. Let's see who wrote this story. This comes from Luke Broadwater. Okay, let's do a little bit of a feature opening here, shall we? The weather wasn't too cold that December morning, so Councilwoman Rochelle Ricky Spector put on a light jacket as she headed for her gold Buick. 2 teenage boys from Southwest Baltimore were in her Inner Harbor parking garage. You know, Inner Harbor, that's the safe neighborhood. You remember that, right? Cutting school and looking for cars to steal. They fixed their eyes on the 80-year-old Spector. The attack was quick and it was violent. A Spector got in her vehicle. The 13-year-old blocked her door from closing. The 15-year-old hit her in the face hard. I was mad as hell. They told her, quote, "You white bitch, give me your car." They punched me in the face, threw me into a concrete pillar. I was screaming like crazy. So far, so good. Word of the attack and subsequent arrests of the boys made evening newscasts and fueled local anxiety. In a city besieged by violence, it seemed to show that no one, not even an octogenarian city official, was safe. Where is that the way it works? You get somebody from LA to look at Baltimore and they make these observations that are just dated and old and superficial and ridiculously simplified. Is there anybody who looked at that attack and said, "Oh yeah, I'm really surprised that those young black people attacked that 80-year-old woman"? No, nobody is surprised in Baltimore, you fool. Anyway, so let's get back to the story, because this is where the story begins. What is less well known is this. Instead, continues the LA Times, instead of seeking vengeance, that's what we call justice now. Putting someone in jail for beating the crap out of a little old lady is now vengeance. Do you suppose it was the first time those guys ever did something like that? Did they ever have a record before? Instead of seeking vengeance, Spector quietly decided to become the boys' advocate. Yeah, it's very quiet. We're going to see how quiet it is. She was in every public forum in Baltimore telling everybody what a virtuous person she was for rescuing these innocent angels who temporarily went astray and almost killed her. Okay, sorry for the editorial comments here, but she, according to this paper, the LA Times, she and a team of nonprofit workers, mentors, and cooks and coaches, a group Spector has dubbed the Good Samaritans, have been working with the boys for months. During and after their time on house arrest, and their grade, school attendance, and attitude have shown marked improvements. Though the boys are still a work in progress, that's what we call covering your butt, by saying these kids are still bad news, but the bad news narrative doesn't fit in the story. Anyway, the teens are now emerging as leaders in the neighborhood, trying to teach others to stay out of trouble. Last month, Spector joined, around the anniversary of the attack about a year ago, Spector joined the older teen in front of a large audience at her synagogue, where leaders from across the city presented her with an award for his progress. The boy who had once punched her in the face now shyly tried to hide behind her from the view of the crowd. He was so overwhelmed, she said, if he didn't hold on to me, he was going to collapse, Spector said. The teenager said, according to the LA Times, I felt scared on the inside. It was a lot of people, and I thought they were going to be ashamed of my actions, but a lot of people started shaking my hand and saying they were proud of me. A week later, Spector presented another award to the younger boy who hugged her, called her ma'am, and said, I messed up. We're not identifying either because they're juveniles. The relationship would never have developed if not for You Empower of Maryland. The nonprofit provides a range of services, including teaching youths how to become cooks. Okay, let's just get through the article because there's something really important we have to say about this. Let me see. Blah, blah, blah. Despite the crimes, the head of this program said she believed the boys had a lot of promise. We invited her to come to the neighborhood and see how much is needed here. The median income is less than $25,000. They live below the poverty line, lead paint violations, and people are nearly twice as likely to be murderers as elsewhere. And the electricity has been shut off in their home, and he didn't go to school. Okay, that pretty much is, like all the excuses all in like one paragraph. That's an extremely heavily dense paragraph, dense with excuses. We went to court not to say they shouldn't be punished, but to see if there was some way we could find a solution. They need, okay, here we go. We're like back in 1956 here, okay? That's like the Jets. This is like the Jets and this is like West Side Story. Off that Officer Kripke song. They need to stay busy. They need to stay engaged. Our goal was to be louder than the streets. If you're not there every day, the streets just call the kids in at a very early age. It's interesting to think about Ta-Nehisi Coates, who emerged from the same kind of streets, same kind of thing. And he was describing the same kind of atmosphere back when he was a young man. Same kind of prescription, same kind of solution. Causes white racism and lack of programs. Solution is lots more free stuff. It would have been easy, said the newspaper, for Spector, the city councilwoman, to stay angry. She could have asked the judges to jail the teen for years. She said she drew on her Jewish faith and chose to forgive them. The Talmud says you first have to have empathy. You have to do acts of love and kindness. Okay, stop. Full stop. When I lived in San Diego, my best buddies were Jewish. I don't know that they practiced every day, but their kids were bar mitzvahed. I went to these things. We would talk about that. Sometimes they'd bring me a newsletter from one of their congregations, a liberal congregation. I'll never forget this one newsletter. The rabbi is talking to his congregation. And he's saying, well, we don't really need to keep kosher or follow the Talmud or the Old Testament or the Bible. They don't call it the Old Testament, the Bible anymore. We can practice what we call eco-Judaism. So, just save the earth, lower your carbon footprint, shrink your carbon footprint, and we'll just call it a day, okay, after that. So she's saying there's something in Judaism that says if two black people come up and beat the piss out of you, almost killing you, and they've done it before and they'll probably do it again, it is your Jewish duty to forgive them and forget all about it. I used to bust my friends all the time because I used to bust my Jewish friends. I used to tell them I think I knew the Talmud and the good book better than they did. I was at a Jewish wedding once in L.A. Apparently, it's a famous place in L.A. It's right on the beach in Santa Monica. It's called Shutters. So, it's outside. The dinner was outside. The wedding is outside. Reception downstairs, inside. A very nice place. So they do the wedding. The ceremony itself didn't last that long, 10, 15, 20 minutes. They did all the traditional Jewish things. They had the glass. You put the cloth on top of it. You stomp on it. Everybody claps. So after the ceremony, we're milling around, waiting to go downstairs, and a waiter comes around. He's carrying a tray of shrimp cocktail. I go up to the waiter. So many of these situations where there's like a lot of people around, And so I said, in kind of a loud voice to nobody in particular, I said, hey, my name's Colin Patrick Flaherty, and even I know that shrimp is not kosher. And everybody around me laughed. And one guy says, oh, don't worry about it. Just relax. It was a funny thing. But there's nothing in the Talmud that says you have to forgive people who try to kill you. Because remember, this is not just about you. It's about everybody else in the community that you have to protect. We're counting on you to protect and help keep these people off the streets. What are you doing? You're sending, oh my God, the message you're sending. The message you're sending to these con artists. Go to cook school. Tell everybody you're sorry. You'll be back on the street in days. Free as a bird. The story goes on to explain. She went up to the kid. Kids don't hit grown-ups, she said. Then the young man who hit her burst out crying. He hugged me. That was in the courtroom, said the councilwoman. I knew I was hooked. I was going to be there. Then the criminal said, we spoke, we hugged. She gave me a kiss on my cheek. It made me feel happy. I started feeling sad for what we did to her. Blah, blah, blah. And they talk about, and everybody's talking about how his life turned around. He's a good person now. He's going to go to school. He's going to go around and tell everybody about the error of his ways. Never really tried this approach before, have we? Oh yeah, by the way, one of the guys, he sees a future for himself as a pro athlete because he has a good throwing arm, so he's going to be a good quarterback or as a veterinarian. Remember, in Baltimore, there are 16 black high schools in Baltimore where nobody can read or write above a 3rd grade level, okay? Capiche? Nobody. If you can't read or write above a 3rd grade level, that means you basically can barely recognize an emoji. And they're sitting there taking seriously his claims that he's going to be a veterinarian or a pro quarterback. I mean, that claim is as credible as anything else in this article. The head of the program says Spector has become an important advocate for the boys. She's tiny, but she's powerful. She has so much energy. Now the boys have a huge advocate. She wants to see them succeed. Now, Spector is going to devote the rest of her life to reforming the juvenile justice system. They are our children, she says. They walk where we walk. If they're going to do bad, they're going to be doing bad where we are. I'm going to spend my next 40 years, she's 80 years old, fixing the juvenile justice system. Well, Ms. Councilwoman Spector, you and all your cronies, you're the ones who broke it. You're the ones who gave out the message that if you come up with a good story, you're going to be back out on the street ready to victimize lots more white people like you. Weak, vulnerable white people who aren't as stupid as you, who aren't as willing to look the other way and put other people in danger. That's what you did, Councilwoman. You put up a huge message that you're an easy target in Baltimore. This is just like the story we just finished talking about in another video in Atlantic, the one we did on Atlantic Magazine. And just down the road in Washington, D.C., a huge story in the Washington Post. Somebody called this program like a second chance program, where they give the kids another chance after being murderers. Turns out they were releasing hundreds of killers on the streets of Washington. All for the same reason. You could take this story, take any of those killer stories and put it right in here. Just change the name. Don't change anything else. It's the exact same story. And all those killers on the streets were killing again and again and again. And if they didn't kill, they were raping and assaulting and robbing. It was like a crime wave released on the city by the people who run the city, by clowns like this Councilwoman Spector. And now she goes around all over the city from these idiotic white people who live in Baltimore. Now she's getting awards from them for doing exactly what it did that has turned that city into a chocolate hellhole. And this is from the LA Times. This is from the Baltimore Sun. This is from these, smart people. Just ask them, they'll tell you, smart people. This is how they want to roll. This is their solution. Pat them on the head, make them promise. Well, no, don't even make them promise. Just say, hey, will you try to do better? Will you try not to carjack any little old ladies anymore? Please. Pretty please. Can you do that for us? And we'll let you go. And remember, don't you dare let us catch you doing this for 17 or 18 more times, or we're going to get really angry at you. But we're going to try not to do that, because we know that getting angry at you, committing this horrific level of violence that has ruined Baltimore, we know doing that on our part, that's really going to make a lot of black kids angry.